umeshtuka misikai umeshtuka misikai umeshtuka misikai umeshtuka misikai
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, karibuni. This is still a non-call presentation of the One Mic Show. And by the way, because our resident sports guy is not here, un momento. Where is this thing over here so I can get this thing ready? And there we go.
Sports and more sports in the One Mic Show.
Party people, karibuni tena to the sports segment because is not here, but we do have a stand-in.
Yes, we have a special guest, you know, for the sports segment. But before we get to the special guest for the sports segment, I want to quickly go to DJ Moshfire just to give us a quick rundown, you know, like of what's been happening, you know, like with Kenyan athletes across the world. DJ Moshfire.
Mwanisikia?
Kabisa. Surely. But yes.
Yeah, you guys didn't even prep me for this.
What should we? So the one was giving us a rundown of what to expect.
Okay. So
you might attend after this.
Okay, yeah, we can see each other back there.
Yes.
So today we had two of Kenya's elite, I guess I'd call them elite athletes.
Yes.
Participating in Monaco. And I think this was a Diamond League event, if I remember correctly. And so we had Omanyala in the 100. And he actually, I think he did set a record. He went in, it was 9.92. I think it was 9.92 seconds. And the guy who was right behind him is the guy
was
from,
a photo finish from Botswana.
Lesotho, I think it is.
Is it I think it's Botswana. Is it Lesotho or Botswana? We're gonna confirm.
Lesotho.
Yeah,
check,
and then
check
there was a number of Jamaicans after that.
And then the American was Ukosiji number 16.
Yeah.
He was number 6. But more so, the other thing that happened today was that we had a new record set in the, was that the 1500?
It was in the mile. It was in the 1 mile.
It was in the 1 mile?
Yeah,
right?
it was in the 1 mile.
So Faith Kipyegon, who has set 2 previous records for 10,000 and for 5,000.
No, it was for 1,500.
No, she said for 5,000 and 10,000.
Was it 5,000 and 10,000?
Check your records, my friend.
I really think it was 1,500.
Check your records. No, because remember she was running. She wasn't run. She normally doesn't run that race, the one that she set a record for. But anyway,
okay,
we'll come back to it.
Okay.
So
check your records.
Yes, this guy, yeah, very fake guy. So she set
I really
another.
think it was 1,500, but anyway, we'll check.
She set another
Our fact
record.
checkers will check.
Yeah.
And then let us
so
know,
now basically this year she has broken 3 records in under what? I was gonna say under 3 months.
It's way less than 3 months.
I was gonna say, and I'm being generous when I'm saying
it's way less. It's within, because it wasn't too long ago when she broke.
Correct.
Yeah, when she broke the 1,500, and I think it was 5,000, 1,500, and now the mile. But our fact checkers here, I'm sure they're quickly, you know, like going down there and they're gonna tell us, you know, like which are the right. But all we know is that she's been breaking world records for entertainment.
She's breaking world records left, right, and center. And in fact, this one she broke by, I think it was like 4 seconds or something like that. If I remember correctly. Yeah, and that's a lot.
That's big.
That's a lot. 4 seconds is a lot. And she was going like she was being chased by somebody.
Yeah, she was alone. She did not have competition.
It was her and that camera that's on the side over there. In fact, she almost passed the camera.
And those lights that show you where the world record is.
Alienda.
Yeah.
She went.
Imenda.
Going for it.
Imenda.
Sasa now what I hope they don't do is they don't do stories as Simenya. Hizi za sijui test your blood, see we check your testosterone, see we check if you're female, or you could be a chap who's added boobs, sijui yani.
No, but Faith Kipyegon ako sawa. I don't think
boss, I'm just telling you because this is not normal. And normal, what is normal? Those are the questions that you would need to ask, right?
Yes.
And again, normally those longer distances, it's okay. Kenyans normally, you know, win those. So maybe there might be chaps who may not necessarily care, but they'll be like, "Hey, apana huyu kuna vile." So I don't know. I'm just throwing that out there. I hope her people have her on top of her game, and she's not hapo working my supplements, my cold flu medications. I don't know what. Keep all that crap away.
Yeah.
In fact, right now, if you don't know, in fact, forget if you don't know the chap. If you don't know what the ingredients are, do not put it in your body. Because I'm sure she's being tested before race, during the race, and after the race. Yes.
Okay.
At this rate.
And before the next race.
Yes. And if she twangas another one this year, man, and the world si bado inakuja.
Okay.
To fact check.
Okay.
Yeah. Check your fact check.
Check those facts.
Shocked Kipyegon adds 5,000 meter
Okay.
world record to
15.
1,500
There you go.
mark in Paris.
And you see, Omosh was speaking so confidently.
No, I had said 5,000, and I said 5,010, right? But it's 1,500.
It's 5,015.
Oh,
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's 5,015.
Okay.
in Angola.
I mean, hey,
Yeah.
that's why we are fact checkers.
Okay.
Yeah. Don't be coming over here nini unaingia kwa segment yangu. You're lucky we have somebody who we are trying to teach things over here, so I can't call you those names.
Or maybe someone we're trying to learn things from, not just teach.
No. We are trying to teach him certain things, certain areas we will learn. But this area of siwezi sema hizo vitu hadharani because I would
Of
have
checking records.
I would have need you names. And then we also have the under 20 rugby trophy
Yes. in
championships in Kenya. So the under 20 world championships just ended, which France won. And so this under 20 trophy championships, whoever wins here then now qualifies to engage into that other tournament
Kenya. Okay.
to participate.
Yeah.
And this is it's a pool play. There's I think it's 8 teams, Group A and Group B.
Mm-hmm.
SA is in there. I think New Zealand is in there. Samoa is in there. I saw Hong Kong is there. There's some pretty decent teams, and think of it this way: that this would be the team that would represent Kenya potentially for quite a bit of time, because this is under 20s.
Yes.
So just think of the likes of Kinahafri Hayange and his brother,
The
Kolo,
engine.
and the records that they set and how long they played for Kenya as well.
Yes.
So if these guys are anything to talk about, this potentially would be the team that would be representing.
So this is the
moving
next
forward.
class. Yeah.
Yeah. So each team has played 2 games. Third game, I think Tuesday is when they play group stage, the third game. So it's going to be 4 games that are played. Unfortunately, Kenya has lost 2 games. But that doesn't mean they're out of it in their group, because if they can win the next 2, there's a potential, because then it's you win the next 2 and then you have a lot of points.
Yes.
That puts you up there for you to go to the next round, basically. And so that's ongoing right now in Kenya at Nyayo Stadium. So I don't know if the Tuesday was picked because of maandamanos or they had already picked Sijui. But
I think these dates were preset.
But But I guess so far it hasn't disrupted them.
No, it hasn't disrupted
So
them.
far it hasn't disrupted them, and
Yeah.
that's something that's ongoing.
Yeah.
And then what have I missed? Women's World Cup.
Yeah. And that's where
The Women's World Cup is coming in, and that would basically segue into the next person who's gonna hold the sports desk. Over to you, studio.
All right, thank you so much, Omosh. And yes, we have a special guest. For those of us who are tuned in last week, you might have seen him. I'm going to let him introduce himself, and he will be talking about the Women's World Cup. Welcome.
Pleasure to have me. My name is Nyman. This is the 2023 Women's World Cup I'll be talking about. So the Women's World Cup started July 20th recently, just a day ago, and will end on August 20th, a month later. 32 nations will compete in this tournament as compared to the prior World Cup in 2019 with 24 nations. So the first topic, so 4 African sides are playing in the 2023 Women's World Cup: South Africa, Morocco, Nigeria, and Zambia. 4 African American teams, African American women are actually representing Nigeria at the Women's World Cup. Thank you. So Michelle Lozzi, the first player, born and raised in Apple Valley, California. She went on to play amateur soccer at Yale University, and she currently plays for the Houston Dash. The next player, Ifeoma Onumonu, born and raised in Rancho Cucamonga, California, represented the USA in youth and U23 football, and later played college soccer at University of California. In 2021, recently received her first call-up to Nigeria. Tony Payne, the third player, born in Birmingham, Alabama. She's a recent graduate from Duke University, grade school, and currently plays professional soccer in Spain for Sevilla. The last player, Yewende Balogun, born in Washington, D.C., not far by, and plays for feminine side, Saint Etienne. And one last thing, I'm not sure if you guys saw, but there was a white woman player for Nigeria.
What? Who?
A white woman player for Nigeria. She played last night against Canada.
So
Yeah.
is it that she's white skinned or she's white?
She's white. She's white. She's British. She's from the United Kingdom.
Huh?
Okay, but is she, you know,
How?
like, is she half Nigerian or is
Is
she,
her father? Did
or
they
is she
pay
white,
somebody?
white? You know, like
so
Karen White.
yeah. So her father is from he's Nigerian and also British, and then her grandfather, like her father's dad, is from Nigeria. So
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
Ashley Plumtree. I'm not sure if you guys know.
She's called Plumtree and she plays for Nigeria.
her. She wants to know more about her culture, so she switched.
Okay, she switched
nationalities.
allegiance.
Yeah.
Yeah. So are the same rules that apply for men's soccer, where you have to select a nationality, I think by age 21, do the same rules also apply for women's soccer? Because I think you can choose who you want to play for. Is it before age 18 or 21? I'm not
think
very sure.
21.
I'm pretty sure it's
21.
21. Yeah.
21.
So you're saying the seniors, right? When you, because I think by the time you go to the seniors is when you have to select. I think
Yeah.
is the way it works. So
Okay,
so you
okay.
you can play junior.
Okay, you
for a
can play
different
for the
ca-
junior
You
team.
can play for the junior team, which is like that under 21, right? But
Okay.
the seniors are those ones who are considered needy.
But the moment you play for the senior team,
Yes,
you're
then
locked.
that-
Even
yeah,
if you're
yes.
under 21,
you're
when
locked.
you play, okay.
Well, yes, you're
Okay.
locked for the if you play for the senior team. So that's why you notice there's some people who we've seen them play like for different countries in, say, hypothetically like a World Cup. Like what are those guys from Germany?
Boateng brothers.
The Boateng
Bas.
twins,
Boateng,
yeah.
Kevin Prince.
Kevin Prince Boateng.
Yes. So
Yeah.
you see, like
Yeah.
the first when they were younger, they played for like the under whatever it is, under
Yeah, they
18,
played
under
for the
20.
German team, yeah.
And then when they went senior, they
One-
switched.
one switched allegiance and one remained in Germany.
Correct.
Yes.
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
All right, next topic. Taking the women's game by storm at just 18 years old, Alyssa Thompson, who is actually playing right now. I'm not sure if she came on yet or she's still on the bench, but Alyssa Thompson, being the youngest women's World Cup starter for the USA for the first time in 28 years. She recently graduated from Harvard Westlake School. Because of her immense talent, though, she drafted to play professionally in Skip College as a high school senior. So, yeah, she's making her debut right now. As I said, I'm not sure if
How old is
playing
she?
right now. She's 18 years old.
Okay.
She hasn't come on yet.
Yeah, she hasn't come on yet.
Not
but
yet.
She's actually wearing the number 7. That's a big number. That's a big
Okay.
number for
Wow, that's a
a
big
young
number.
player.
Yeah.
Midfield. That's the
Yeah.
person who's controlling all that
Winger.
stuff.
Exactly, yeah.
Winger.
Like Ronaldo winger, yeah. So she's definitely gonna do big things, yeah. People are referencing her as the LeBron James of women's soccer, Serena Williams. So she's definitely a highlight.
That's
player, yeah.
that's pressure.
It's
But
big.
you know, even
It's a lot of pressure.
Rodman's daughter.
Rodman's daughter.
Is also.
She plays for the DC team.
Yeah.
I think, yeah, Rodman's daughter. She plays for the DC Women's League team. And she's also the American national team.
She's American national team, yeah.
Okay. Okay. All right. So that's quite interesting. So what do we have so far in the World Cup? I know a couple of games have been played. I also know the US is currently playing Vietnam.
Vietnam.
So who are you looking at as a favorite at the moment from the games that you've watched so far?
So for me, I'm American, so I'm gonna go for the US. Even though
Ati,
we dominated
say again, Ati, you're what?
USA. That's my country. So I'm gonna
What
go
is
for
that
them.
band? The one that you're wearing on your left hand. Where is that from?
That doesn't look
No,
like
Are
USA.
we in the World Cup? Are
No,
we in the World Cup?
just answer the question as it was posed. sir.
It's Tanzania. It's
Okay,
Tanzania.
all right.
Okay.
Moving
But
on.
USA is my
Now
country.
Okay.
USA is your country.
Okay.
You
But
saw
but
the
but,
team-
Umemskia. Okay.
but what
good, yeah.
country, if there was a threat to the American team, which country would you say is a threat to the American team?
I definitely say Spain. Spain have been a very good team so far. They played their first game against Costa Rica. They won 3-0. They're
Okay.
a very good team, very quality team. I see the way they pass the ball around tiki-taka. So,
Okay.
they have
So-
a really good play, yeah.
So you wouldn't say Brazil?
Brazil, a top team, but Spain,
Martha.
man. Marta, yeah.
Marta, the
Is
difference
Marta
maker.
is Marta in this World
Yes,
Cup?
she's
This
there.
Is,
She
this is
still
her
is,
last
yeah.
one, eh?
Yes,
Yeah,
this is the
it's the
last
last
World
one.
Cup. Yeah.
Wow.
People are referencing her as the Messi of Brazil because of women's Brazil team, yeah, because of,
But
how
she
she
needs
hasn't
to win.
won.
Yeah, she's
Hasn't
never won a
the
World
She's
Cup.
never won the
But
World
she can't be
Cup,
called
yeah.
Messi. She can't be equated to Messi now because Messi won.
Well, yeah.
But if
that-
she wins-
that's
but
why
if she wins-
that's-
if she wins this
that's
one,
why
perfect
they-
reference.
Yeah.
I think there was a lot of hope last World Cup. I think there was that
She got
notion
injured, I
that
thought,
Brazil
Mhm.
was sort of going going there.
Far, yeah.
But
Yeah, I think she got injured also, unless I'm wrong, or there was something weird. Like it's almost like she didn't play all there was something weird going on.
I
That
so
last World Cup,
which African teams? I know we have Nigeria.
So we have Zambia. We have we have Zambia. So we have Zambia. We also have. Sorry, one sec.
So Zambia, Nigeria. Is Kenya there?
Morocco. Yeah, sorry, Morocco.
Kenya?
South Africa.
Is Kenya there by any chance?
Kenya.
Not yet. Okay. All right. So Nigeria, Zambia, Morocco, and South Africa. Okay.
Yeah.
So
of
with
all
Afri-
those teams, I would go without a doubt with I'd say Nigeria.
Nigeria, very good
Of
team.
all those teams, I would add because the women's game in Nigeria they are at a very very mature level,
Yeah.
very extremely.
And they have a young team right this year. They have a young team.
But I also watched one of South Africa's friendlies. I mean, I think South Africa could be a wild horse too.
But
in
I
this-
think
in this
friendlies
tournament.
is one thing.
Yeah.
Friendlies are one thing. Meat and potatoes.
Meat and
When the
potatoes.
rubber meets the road,
Yeah.
yeah. That is where now you.
I mean,
what do you call it? Kinyaga ubagas? You what?
yes,
You
that one.
chambua. That
Yes,
was chembe
that one.
chakaraha,
That
something
one.
like that.
I mean,
Yeah.
let's see how they play because I
Yeah.
haven't watched their game in this World Cup because we are still on what game ones, right?
Game
Yeah, we're on game
We're still
ones,
on game
yeah.
ones.
Yeah.
now,
So
yeah.
let's see, and then also it also depends on the group,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
And then the times. What? There's some other.
Yeah, there's some
times
ridiculous
over there.
times.
1 a.m., 3 a.m., 5:30 a.m., and 8
It's on the
a.m.
other side of the world, and it's actually the first time being, Australia and New Zealand, two countries hosting the World Cup. So
Yeah,
first time for the women.
And now I strongly believe that's gonna hurt the ratings in the U.S.
Yeah.
Because unfortunately, like the women's game has grown, but I'm doubting whether people are gonna wake up at 3 a.m.
4
to,
a.m.
to watch the women's game.
I
If-
think
if-
I
if
think
that-
they will. I think they will.
People will.
Think of the population. Just
Yeah.
think of it that way. When you think of population and you think that how many people are playing soccer, it's all the women. And if they have it, or the girls, right? And so, I think they will.
Die-hard soccer people will wake up, but I'm talking about the casual fan because
no, the casual fan is not.
Yeah,
doing
because
it. No.
like what makes a tournament big is when casual fans are actively watching. I don't see the casual fan waking up at 3 a.m. The casual fan, if the men's World Cup was at 3 a.m., the casual fan is also waking up. So that's that. This is a test that I think the women's World Cup will have to experience. With whatever's been going, like they've been negotiating, like for fair pay, which they kind of got some things. They did not get everything they wanted, but they're getting paid much better than what they were getting paid in previous World Cups. And then I think there's also so many other things that are gonna be happening in America. Now like after the World Cup, I think. Of course, there's going to be the men's World Cup that's coming in 2020. Is it 2020?
2026.
2026.
Yeah.
And then I think there's another tournament.
The Copa America is actually next year. It's going to be in the U.S.
It's coming to
It's
the
gonna
US.
be the US.
Again, 'cause
Yes.
in 2016, those, yeah.
Yeah.
Isn't what's the other one? The one that it's not Copa America. It's
CONCACAF.
Gold Cup.
Yeah, yes, the one that the teams that have qualified for the World Cup play. It's prior to the World Cup.
Is that Gold Cup or
No,
CONCACAF?
it's
Confederations Cup.
I'm not sure what they call it. I have to go back. I have to go back and check it because,
Yeah.
like, let's say World Cup is played in the summer. This one will be played like around December or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's basically the teams that have qualified for the World Cup. It's almost like a precursor
To the World Cup.
Yeah, it's kind of like a warm up to the World Cup.
Okay.
And I think there's also UEFA Nation. No, that one ended. UEFA Nations is also
The Nations
The
League.
Nations League for
Yeah.
UEFA. For there's UEFA. Then I think there's still Euros to happen. So there's a
Euros
lot
is
of
next
sports.
year.
There's a
next
lot
year.
of things.
For-
We have to jipanga.
We have to Jipanga.
We have to jipanga vizuri. And when the World Cup comes to the US, I mean, that's a once in a lifetime opportunity.
We will be reporting from the ground.
That's a once in a lifetime opportunity. I think that month,
Which
the one
countries?
Mike show will
What
be had.
States.
Man, it's all over.
DMV is
It's-
not.
It's yeah.
That which never made sense.
That was
yes.
it was very painful
DMV is
for
not.
us.
I think
But
ATL
Philadelphia is
right.
Philadelphia.
Philadelphia is the
Atlanta.
closest. It's close to Baltimore.
Yeah, Philly is close.
To Baltimore, not to other parts of Maryland.
Yeah,
But
You see what you have to deal with.
yeah, Alan, you just have to put your car in reverse. You will get there.
yeah.
Eh,
Philadelphia, I think Atlanta, Houston. Houston will also be hosting.
Cali, I think Miami might even be having.
Yeah, you know, like
But also
Kansas.
there's also games in Mexico.
How in
There's
the
also
hell?
games in
Kansas,
Mexico.
Kansas
Mexico
City,
and Canada as well.
Yeah,
also.
Mexico and Canada.
Mexico and Canada as well.
Mexico and Canada. So you can travel.
But
Yeah.
excuse me, like you were saying, Kansas.
I'm not giving people an idea, but think of RV. Because hotels are going to be so expensive at that time.
Wait,
Just
Ali,
think RV.
Ali, you
I'm not giving people
Ali,
ideas.
You
You're
put the one
Ali.
Mike show on an RV.
Ali,
Eh?
look, you already have an RV. Why are we
Looking
needing-
for sponsors.
RV.
MDKO.
Boss, you already have an RV. Tuko watu ngapi kwa show?
Kwanza RV na kam na wifi.
Ulikuwa unajimarket.
Sikiza,
Eh?
tuko watu ngapi kwa show? Ile gari yako waga third row. Tunalala kwa shifts. Alafu
Sasa gari yangu ama RV?
wewe.
Sigari yako ni RV.
Ama gari yangu ndo inavuta RV.
Hapana,
Sindio
gari
pia?
yako ndio
Eh?
RV. Hapana, hakuna ile RV ya kuvuta. Ile RV ya kuvuta bana, unajua kwanza you even have to inflate the thing so it
No,
comes up.
no, but sasa gari, then where do you sleep when you're in Monterrey, Mexico?
You didn't hear that we sleep in the car. Ama there was something that you didn't hear.
Mzee, mi mpaka nilale kwa Tempur-Pedic.
Comfort.
Comfort, my guy.
Boss, in that at
Comfort.
that
I
time
don't
we'll
think-
be lit, we'll be
I don't think
there'll
you-
be
Ala
tents,
kujipanga
You've never
mapema.
gone camping.
kuna
I
tents,
don't think you've
kuna
ever gone
sleeping
camping.
bag.
Mzee,
Huyo day-
Tempur-Pedic.
Wewe cool we
Mzee,
Cool
Tempur-Pedic.
cool kids.
Cool kids, yes.
Cool kids. Umesikia Tempur-Pedic?
Yes.
Cool kids.
Unajua mattress inaitwa Purple?
No, sawa. Cool
Purple
kids.
mattress.
Bisi tunajua zile zilikuwa za hii tulikuwa boarding zilikuwa na
As
hii
we
zile
don't-
slice.
lala.
As we don't know those mattresses.
Eh?
Yes, we don't know those ones. Tunajua zile
they're
za
not in our
Tempur-Pedic
zip
hamjui?
code.
Hapana.
Eh?
Hiyo ni ya cool kids.
You guys don't know about Tempur-Pedic?
Yani Ali hajawahi finywa mgongo na spring.
Wotire. Is that all from our sports desk?
That will do for today. Yeah.
Okay.
Tune into the game.
All
I
right.
know
All right.
DC's packed right now. I know DC's definitely packed right now.
Yes,
Yes,
absolutely.
yeah,
you know,
definitely.
people
yes.
watching the game. Yeah, and I think people should tune in to watch the women's game.
And it's
even-
at a good time.
Yeah.
After the one, make sure they can go and watch the second half.
Yes,
Yeah.
and even beyond the World Cup, you know, like the women's league is also really growing, and they have very quality games. Now, this women's World Cup, what channels are showing it?
So Fox has the coverage. Fox, FS1, FS2. So pretty much Fox is
Just
a
like the
whole.
World
Anything
Cup.
in the Fox
okay.
family,
Yeah.
basically.
Okay,
Fox
FS1, FS2.
Yeah. So definitely tune into the games. Yeah.
Okay.
And you know something he didn't touch on, which you know is just throwing this in as a by the way. There's the what is it called? Is it the EPL tour? Is that what it's called? Right?
Manchester United, Arsenal.
You're right. That's
Happening
happening
tomorrow.
That's happening tomorrow.
Happening tomorrow.
In right here.
MetLife, no.
Right here, our neighbors here, Jazzy. Jazzy is not far.
Yeah,
You know, we
MetLife.
always use it's 3.5 hours. 3
MetLife.
hours.
Whoever will be there, if
And
you have
also-
tickets, slide in my inbox.
I know a guy who has tickets, but you gotta pay for it.
Okay.
They
all
are
right.
they are not those tickets that yeah, Ali, I know you. No.
Eh.
Before-
Okay.
No.
Tell him to give you the tickets, and then you give them to me. Then I'll pay him after the game.
Before we sign out, mattress yali in a temperature control. I'm telling you. That's from Slay.
Wow.
Karibu sana
this
Fab
guy.
Kithinji. Atitanon Kiguru's mic. Fab anasema huongei.
Achana Fab.
But he came late. Amekuja amechelewa.
Oh,
Uchokozi.
by the way, World Cup ikienda Canada,
Eh.
Afro-Jamaican hapa Kizesoze is saying, come to Toronto, I will barbecue.
No, wait. Is that one of the benefits, the barbecue, or because you are talking about Tempur-Pedic? You know, he might have Tempur-Pedic in the guest
No,
room.
barbecue, once we are coming, he knows we are Kenyans. Once we are
We are
Kenyans,
coming to stay.
remember Kenyans, ukiingia, upatiwe chai, unauliza iko wapi, mkate na mayai. And Afro-Jamaican, what that means is Kenyans, you come, you give us tea, we're going to ask for bread and eggs, not just the tea. So be prepared for
And
that.
they can throw in some bangers,
Yes.
or should I say sausages?
Yeah, so
Which
be
i-
prepared for that. So,
Which
so, if,
in other
so
words,
if you're inviting
prepare
us
for
for a
Ali a temperature
barbecue,
control mattress.
so if you're inviting us for barbecue, make sure you have the Tempur-Pedic mattress ready. 'Cause
And
we gotta
also-
go fresh the
also-
next day on the game.
Also, speaking of Arsenal, did you catch the game against MLS All Stars in DC?
Yes.
Man, that
That,
was
that was an amazing game.
Yeah,
Those-
Arsenal.
But you know, that game also, I've always wanted to believe, you know, like that the MLS has really, really improved. But then, like the 5-0 drubbing, and
Got
that
whooped.
and you see, and that was an Arsenal that was not even firing on all cylinders.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they gave them 5 goals.
5.
So I think the MLS still has quite some work to do.
Is,
I
do you
mean, I
think
know that
it-
was-
Do you think that it's the MLS that has a work to do, or it's the
Oh, yes.
selection of the team?
But
that
these
they
were
made?
all stars.
No, these are all-stars.
These are all stars. I mean, even if they were not the best of the best.
No. You
Even if
only
the-
select the best of the best
But
in the league.
But Omosh is questioning the selection.
Yes.
But even if it was a questionable selection, let's say it was, like
But that's
70%
MLS.
of what it should be. 5-0 is still 5-0 from a team that's not firing on all cylinders. I mean, I know Arsenal is a great team.
You still cannot compare.
I know. The whole world knows Arsenal is a great team,
You
but
cannot compare those guys who've come from the Arsenal, what do you call it? Minor leagues or the camp, or gone through that training, or gone through similar,
Yeah.
who are now playing for Arsenal. You can't compare those guys with the guys in the MLS, because the
Yeah.
MLS system is still, they're just not there yet. And I don't know what they use as their what is it called? Their,
By the way, let me
their
tell
minor
you.
system. I don't know if they use through
Let-
college
Let
or
me
whatever.
tell you.
Yeah, go ahead.
We are going to have Babahanya here. He is one person who is very critical of the process, be it scouting. You remember the kids we featured over here some time back when Kenyan, of Kenyan descent, Kenyan kids who are drafted.
who are
Yes,
drafted.
yes, yes.
Kina Mayaka.
You don't hear anything about
Kina
them.
Kibunguchi,
None of them.
We don't see them. And I think part of the problem that was even highlighted by Lawrence Olum, the only MLS Kenyan player to play in the MLS, who also went through
And
the
win,
college
by
system.
the way. And win, by the way.
Yeah,
And
and
win.
win the MLS. Like he also had issue with he talked about the issues with the system of drafting, that American style drafting.
Yes.
Which maybe works in football and basketball.
And baseball, but that's it.
But it doesn't work in soccer, because so far
It doesn't.
most of those number 1 picks, like they're not playing at the level where a number 1 pick is supposed to be at.
But you see, also another issue that Babahanya was bringing up was, and he pointed out, you draft somebody, and then you go out and pick up somebody who's probably in their 30s to come in. Like now, for example, there was a kid who was drafted to DC United.
Yeah.
He was supposed to be starting like as a striker / power forward.
Yeah.
Then punde si punde, they signed Benteke. So that kid is not going to play.
Yeah.
Because Benteke is going to be priority.
Yeah.
He's going to be priority. So that kid will never develop. There's another kid who was playing. I think he's called Bender. He used to play for University of Maryland. He used to play with Isaac, my nephew. That he was several assists, has scored goals as a midfielder. They have signed a 34-year-old Belgian who's going to come and start.
Yes.
Right, which means that this kid
Will not develop.
But now
you
that's
see,
that's
you
also
see the
another
other
issue.
problem.
But something
yeah.
that the MLS does is that they take these old players, like recently Lionel Messi joining Inter Miami. So they take these old players, like they contact all these old players, and even the players just in general, they just find interest coming to the States, coming to play. So they'll come to play and they'll all be old, like David Beckham recently, and now he's in a high place in Inter Miami and had contact with Messi. So that's why he brought him, and he's actually going to play soon. So
My issue with that is that, for me, you know how at one point the Oakland Raiders was the retirement for NFL players, and
Yeah.
at one point Washington Commanders was a retirement for old players. MLS is a retirement for most of these guys who cannot even start. Forget even Division 1, even let's say Division 2. Let's say, like, if you look at the Premier League, Ligue 1, Ligue 1, Serie A, or even La Liga, those guys are not going to get a starting until the other day. How many had on you where career Vampire was? Oh, sorry, Suarez.
Which
Suarez,
the
ex
biter.
Barcelona.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the biter, the vampire guy.
Suarez
Yeah.
the biter.
Yeah, he's now at Inter Miami.
Now,
Yes.
now you see, I think the MLS is right now struggling with an identity crisis. It's struggling with an identity crisis where they want recognition, but at the same time, you know, like they also want to develop, you know, like homegrown players
Yeah.
in America. So that's a conflict that's really difficult to fight. But you see, the other issue is it's not only these senior players, the players in their 30s. We're also talking about younger players who are being recruited from South American countries like
There's also
Colombia,
that.
Venezuela. You know, young and known players who come and they perform better than these players who are being recruited, you know, like from college. Because remember, like Lorenzo Loom told us, in college, you know, you have summer, you're only playing for a certain part of the year.
These
but
kids
this
are playing
kid,
throughout.
this kid is playing 365 days in a year.
Yes.
And when
So
the
they
kid, when
more
he's brought on the
developed.
field, you know, he's more developed than you are, and the coach is left with no choice.
Yeah.
But yeah,
As we
even
wrap
like,
up.
speaking of Inter Miami, yeah. So Sergio Busquets, I know that he's playing. Jordi Alba, I know that he's playing. So it's like all these connections, and it's like I've seen things like trying to get the Barcelona team together again. You know, all these references. But the point being is that these older players, they come to the MLS and they have connections already, and they just come here to enjoy, to play, to just have that time, before they retire.
To go
And-
grocery
yes,
shopping,
exactly.
where they can't do it in Europe.
There's something I want
Yeah.
to add here.
Yes.
When it comes to sports in America, it's a business. When you're talking about soccer, I don't follow soccer much, but when you're talking about soccer, you're passionate about it. Where we come from in Africa and Europe, it's a sport. It's a sport first.
Mchezo.
The money later. Here it's the money first. So some of the decisions will not make sense.
No,
Will
I
not make
totally
sense.
agree.
Yeah,
Because it's-
jersey
it's-
sales, gate sales, box office, all of the corporate, people buying those season tickets. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And
Alright, it's about
to wrap
lobbying.
up, let me quickly read this comment from Fab. In fact, actually, here, Pablo is saying, I admire the grasp and knowledge of sports the new sports anchor has. So Pablo has already crowned you as a new sports anchor. That's Pablo.
Make a man.
and then
I appreciate that, Pablo.
and then Fab says it's a double-edged sword. These older players have great experience and skill that's to be passed down to the MLS players who don't have to level experience. But as said by the younger players lose on growth opportunity. So I think it's an identity crisis that the MLS has to figure how to solve it. If they want to create, like another, like a developmental league, like the way the NBA has, like the G League. If they want to do something of that sort, especially for players who are coming from high school and talking about basketball, like these other leagues outside college, like G League, Ignite, and we're talking about overtime, they're producing all the top picks in the draft. So maybe the MLS might want to think about something of that sort.
And just to add on to that,
Yeah.
majority of the U.S. national team, they don't play in the U.S. They play outside. They
In the
play
European leagues.
They play in the European leagues.
Yes.
If you look at the from the goalkeeper from Matana, most of those players,
Yeah.
they play outside. So there's also a problem of nurturing local talent, because if you look at the English team, most of their players play where? In the Premier
Domestic
League,
league.
in the domestic league. If you look at most guys like maybe unless maybe France or whatever,
for
again,
argument's sake, Brazilian players, most of them don't play in Brazil. They play in Europe, but they still go together, play together, and win.
right. But the
Yeah.
Brazilian, no, those are the best of the best who are playing outside. Now
Yeah.
imagine the talent that can be pulled or chukuliwad from Brazil. Brazil itself to be nurtured, because most of those guys you won't hear of a foreigner. You'll hear foreigners, but most of the Brazilian players, if you look at the local leagues, are
Yeah.
Brazilian players.
Yes,
Most
absolutely.
of
Yeah,
most of
them
the
are
players in
Brazilian
the MLS
Yeah.
are not local.
Yes.
They're South American.
So I think
And
that-
they're from outside the country.
So that's
there's an issue.
something that there's an issue that MLS has to deal with.
And moving on to social segment, because this one can take forever.
Yeah,
and
I
ever.
think
But-
no. I
Oh,
think
one
Iman
more
had
thing,
something
sorry.
to wrap up, and
Naman.
then we'll go to the social segment.
So for me, I was just gonna talk about the Brazilian players. It's like the young players like Vinicius Jr., Neymar Jr., top player right now. They came from Brazilian leagues. They came from small Brazilian leagues and
Yes,
went up. So I
that's
think
true.
that, these players in the MLS, in America here, they should start off. It's all about being exposure. So these players, they could be great players here in America. They could be great players here. And they just need that exposure to be seen and have that that upbringing and be able to be exposed to top leagues and play for the national team. And
Yeah, and like to add on to that, like I noticed when the MLS All Stars were playing Arsenal, you could see the intimidation in the MLS team. You could see it even before the game. You could see it, you could feel it. So I think MLS still has some work to do now, especially with the World Cup coming to the US. I think there's a plan. But thank you so much. And hopefully we'll have you again to do some more review of the Women's World Cup and all these exciting upcoming sporting events that are going to be coming to the US. Asante sana. All right, so now we want to move on to the social segment, the moment that you've been waiting for. We already know that like quite a number of things have been happening in Kenya, and in this final hour of the show, we want to go back to a discussion that we started last week regarding the cost of living protests in Kenya. Like our guest who was able to talk about the organization. He's also a diehard Kenya Kwanza believer. And we'll be talking about maandamano and the turn that it took this week. Now, the guest is a diehard believer of the Kenya Kwanza government and their policies and the direction that they've taken against these maandamanos that are happening. I mean, of course, earlier today, former president, like came live on air on TV to say that, like his family is being harassed. Like I think the latest was... like there were people who were sent to the son's residence, and the former president, that's President Uhuru Kenyatta, said if the government has an issue with him, they should come and pick him up, but he's gonna defend his family to the end. So our conversation is gonna be revolving around that. The good thing today is that previously, some quarters here and there, like some people have accused the studio of being pro-Azimio. So today, we have someone from Kenya Kwanza who believes in President William Samoei Ruto, supports everything he does, believes in all his policies, and is very much for what he's doing against these mandamanos. Allan Kiguru, karibu tena. Welcome once again.
Okay.
Welcome once again to the
like
to the One Mic Show.
First,
Yeah.
the first thing I'm going to do is issue a disclaimer.
Yes.
My political view is my personal view.
Yeah.
With regard to my role as MDKO chair, that's different.
Yoni
because
Kando.
That organization is a Kenyan organization, and that's all Kenyans.
Yes.
My support for MDKO is personal, so I want that to be viewed as that.
Okay. Yoni
That's-
Kando. Yeah.
Tukubaliana na hiyo.
Kwa
Nimeona
hivyo-
Ruth mpaka amevuta kiti. She's
No,
like,
well, you
ready
know,
to rumble.
this is a good conversation to have, and I like the way you just, you wanted to kind of separate who you
Yes.
are.
Kwa hiyo kusema mtu wa Kenya Kwanza. Sorry, go ahead.
It's okay. I never fully understand. Okay, I do understand. What you may say here might affect some other people's views and stuff like that. But I think part of having debate and living in society is, as you said earlier, is taking a stand, whether it's right or wrong, but still taking a stand. So I like that. Ruth does not take stands around some things. I only take on policies. So I'm neither for these people, but there are policies like I would want to talk about with you and kind of hear,
Okay.
Your
So in short, Allan umesema, if you're a KK member and you get, like umelipa membership ya MDKO, you're not getting a 10% bonus in case, like something happens.
Haina uhusiano.
Haina uhusiano.
Haina uhusiano. This is a
Okay.
personal view. I support, like you said, wholeheartedly,
Okay.
William Samoei Ruto.
All right. So talk to
And-
us
and
about,
just for disclosure.
Yeah.
Just for disclosure.
Mhm.
And this is very interesting. The Kenyan political space is very interesting.
very.
I have been a supporter of Uhuru Kenyatta from 2002 when he was standing for president, 2013, 2017. And those who support him now, I don't think supported him when we supported him. So that's just for informational purposes first
Disclaimer.
and foremost.
Or just in
Our to
case.
Azimio, we
Yeah.
were not with them when we were supporting Uhuru. We start there.
Okay. All right. So what are your thoughts about, like what's been happening in Kenya, especially within the past 2 weeks, just from your vantage point? Just tell us what you think and how you feel.
My honest view, and I told you earlier, lately past few weeks I haven't followed politics closely, but now I went on my tweet feed and I gather some information. You'll see what's been happening in the country. One, any kind of instability is never good for any government, for any country, for any economy. So that's a big problem. Two, demonstrations of any nature are a big challenge to security forces. Look at France, the situation they've been having. They're normally a big challenge to any security forces. So what we're having in Kenya and the way they're trying to contain that situation is just unique to us. But I believe the government has done a good job in trying to contain that. I think that the strategies that are being taken, and I'm not going to take sides, but the fact that there's this tendency or there seems to be vibes that, they want to escalate this to a different level. Like I was seeing some images that were very disturbing. I saw a guy leaking a knife that had blood, right? And this guy happened to have been in the company of the former president that you talked about that had a press conference today. When you look at the image, right, and the kind of energy that brings to the support line, I think that is in itself very dangerous.
Okay, now real quick before you come in, Ruth, you said you're in full support of the response the government made, against these demonstrations. I think we have at least 24 people dead.
It's not
from.
Let me rephrase.
No, I'm just trying to,
because I don't want to take one incident. This has been a series of incidents. So
yes.
What I'm talking about is the way the government is responding, and I said this is not unique to Kenya. And it's a big challenge for most security forces in terms of how you deal with this, how you separate. Let's even look at this country. How you separate a law enforcement officer, how he identifies a threat from a non-potential threat. Some people get, responses with bullets from just lifting a stick. So when it comes to securing, or providing security, it's a very sensitive matter and depends on how those who are approaching security forces approach them.
Now
so we have to look at things from all angles.
You bring interesting comparisons of France and also the U.S.
Yeah.
I mean, so far in the French demonstrations, I've not had police shooting demonstrators. In Kenya we have 24 people dead. Even in the U.S. demonstrations, yes, things happen, but it's very rare for you to hear 24 people were killed in a series of demonstrations. Even let's say, for example, let's take the George Floyd demos that went across different cities, different states. 24 people getting killed.
I'll say this. I'll say this. One, no death is valid. No death is valid. Let's first start there. Two, because you've made a lot of reference to what is currently the latest incidences that have happened. There is still an ongoing investigation onto how and who committed those crimes, right? There are conflicting reports. There's some reports saying that the people, I understand there are videos, but there are conflicting reports. There are reports saying that the people who planned the Maandamanos actually committed these acts to escalate the. Oh no! I said they are conflicting. This is what I said. I said they are conflicting reports.
No,
is that true?
So it's not true. It's not true. But and I'm gonna give you a chance to talk. Okay. And personally, I think this is where just generally in Kenya, that's where political conversations sometimes tend to take a tangent of how we feel. For me personally, it's never been a secret, which side I supported or which side I voted for. But I think it's very important to have fidelity to facts that are already available, and also to also be free to say, maybe in the last 2, I've not quite followed what's happening, so I'm not sure, because there's some factual information that's already out there on who's killing, or on of course who's been killed it's known, and then there's also, I mean, of course, this has to go through the courts of law, but then there's already, you know, like evidence that's already out there. But then again, you know, that's why I'm saying it's important to have a fidelity to facts, and also to also say that maybe I've not followed what's been happening, so I'm not very sure. Ruth.
Okay, I need to put a stop to this because at this point we'll go talking about facts for a while. I'm still stuck on somebody leaking blood from a knife. That's crazy.
The images out there.
Yeah, but I did not see that one, and I'm crazy. Like, that's just crazy. But I think I want us to step back from the Mandamanos and how it's being dealt with. The introduction was, you look, a diehard KK supporter and the government, and actually would like to know from your point of view what you think of the policies that are being implemented, why you support them, or why you support the president's plan for the country, where you see Kenya going. Like, I think we need to start from there, so that, like, because I think it's easy for us to kind of hear one side of, this is why we are opposed to that. But I really would love to know from your point of view why you support that. And as you talk about the policies, please mention the financial bill, because that is the biggest one. That is what was causing the Mandamanos.
Let me say this. Like I told Ali earlier, I've not been following Kenyan politics in detail. To say that the finance bill is what is causing the Mandamano is to me to be either insincere or not, or not familiar with the situation in Kenya. I like the fact that Ali said he has a side he supports and he voted. I have a side I support and I voted. One thing we have to do as Kenyans is very simple. We have to learn to accept the outcome of a robust election. Short of that, then we have a problem. Because everything else that's happening is happening because of our refusal to accept. And it's only one seat. It's only one seat.
Okay.
Out of all the other elected positions, it's only one seat that goes into contention to a level that causes lives. Nobody else is Actually, I think the former MP of Nyeri, I saw, made a comment and said he's not hearing any other leader that lost insisting that they negotiate. The people that were sitting or running for governor, they are not insisting that they negotiate with the governors that won. The MPs that won are not negotiating with the MPs that lost. The MCAs that won are not negotiating with the MCAs that lost. So that's the first thing we have to do. The second thing,
agreed with
I'm
you.
not going to get into details.
Okay.
I want to
Agreed
just
with
explain.
you on that part.
And
We
I
have
want to
one
come. I want to come to
president.
the president.
We have
the
one
former
president. Okay. We have
Yeah.
one president.
Yeah.
I want us to talk about, like, I really want to hear why you support his policies.
Like the finance bill, for example, you know, what are some
And it
things
could
that
be-
you
yeah,
like?
The finance bill has, and there is I don't want to get into it because it has areas that, for one, if you ask me, with regard to the housing levy, I would have loved to see them push for what initially they had proposed, where it would have been a savings scheme for Kenyan employees, which required employers to match the contribution. That was flipped, and now it became a tax, which means you, the contributor, do not benefit. Oh, yeah.
No, it's okay. No.
No,
Just keep
it's-
talking.
it's-
Keep talking.
it's just
Ali
being
warned me.
passionate.
Ali
Being
warned me about
passionate.
that. He warned me about that, and that's why he's taking me to this direction. He warned me about. He told me, "I know you'll be buying the table at some point." Ole. Anyway, but it has taken away where the contributor is not. It's less, but it's a tax, which means that's not something you ever recover. So I personally feel that that's something the Kenyan citizen lost an opportunity to, where they would have a scheme that would have been good for people in terms of.
But was there
some savings.
anything that you liked? You know, like, for
I
example,
actually
on
would,
the
you know what?
financial-
Because actually people were against that levy thing.
Yep.
I'd want to know why you support that levy thing. Because for me, I
if
feel
you-
like I'm very removed from.
Okay,
that
if
part.
you look at what the president has a big emphasis on the affordable housing, which before, if you go to the big four agenda even of the previous regime, the former president, housing was one of the biggest things, and that's why he maintained the PS for housing, right? Inga was under Uhuru's administration. I feel that the affordable housing scheme is something that's very good for Kenya. We need to eliminate the various slums we have in the country. I also think that it is time as Kenya we started to look at decongesting, like Nairobi. I don't know where all the government services have to be centralized. Some of those can be taken to other regions and create employment in other regions, decongest the city. So I think the housing scheme is something that's very good. I looked at the Kenya Mortgages and Refinance Company that they intend to fund most of the affordable housing scheme through. And I thought it was a very noble idea where they have regulated interest rates for the low-income people to give them, a good dwelling. I think that's a good thing.
That is a good thing. Let me bring more to that. The biggest thing people have said, and this is me talking to friends who actually live in Kenya and work in Kenya, like somebody has already built their own house. Right. So they really don't need this. At the time it was called levy. So I'm like, I will never need it, later in life because I already have my thing. Why should I contribute to it? So I think what I would want to hear from you is, I know you say you supported it. What would you say to that person now from that side of you? Because I think I had a lot of opposition to that.
That's why I said it was structured as a savings scheme. Remember I said if you go and look at it, it was you pull 3% and your employer has to match, right? Which is where I feel the Kenyan citizen lost, because employers would have had to match what you're contributing. And if yours didn't go into the housing scheme, then that fund would come to you, would be accessible to you, almost similar to the 401k here. That would have made money that you get back. That's the way it was structured.
No.
Yes, it was the way it was structured, Ali.
No, but let's continue.
Yeah. That's the way it was structured as a savings scheme, but they were going to use...
only for housing?
What they were going to do is that scheme was going to be used as the kitty to fund those who go into the housing scheme. Remember, they're being given mortgages at a low interest rate, at a lower interest rate than the current market value, right? Okay. So that kitty was going to be used to fund those who get into the housing scheme. But you who contributes to it, if you don't use it, your fund was going to grow as a retirement a fund.
So you could
and I think, and I keep saying, that's why I feel that the Kenyan citizen lost, because now it's been turned into a tax.
But now, okay, besides, like the housing levy, was there, anything, in that financial bill? Because there were so many things in there. But is there anything in particular? Is there like one or two things that you could pick out and say, wow, this is going to take Kenya to the next level? It's going to put Kenya, anything?
The one thing I'll say is, in my view, you need to give this administration the time to implement their policies.
Yes,
I'll give you an example.
No, I agree.
I give you an example.
No, we're in agreement. We're in agreement. We're in agreement to that, and you're going to give but is there anything in that which is now law, which is now Finance Act? I mean, of course, the courts have suspended it, but is there any one or two things, that you just look at it and said, wow, this was so genius?
I'm avoiding dissecting that thing, and I'll keep giving the examples that I think are relevant to us building the country and making people understand.
I think you should, because we want to hear that point of view. Also, I think for me, again, I say I keep learning.
I'll tell you something. The one thing that this administration has done, and it's going to be a core part of their budget, is to make sure that the farmers are supplemented, right? And what that's going to do, we're actually going into a harvest right now, right? In the next maybe month and a half or so, we're going into a harvest.
The maize harvest.
Yeah.
It's already happening.
So what that's going to do is inject money directly into the economy, to the common person. Because what we had previously is farmers could not afford to buy the seedling. Farmers could not afford to buy the fertilizer. So nobody was growing food. And we saw what happened with, this. Actually, one of the biggest things, the reasons they're banging sufurias around is because of the cost of what? Of unga, right? But with this supplemental program that the government has for farmers, in probably another 2-3 harvests, we're going to have more than enough corn in the country. Go ahead.
So do you think that we only need to give this government time for us to see the policies take place? What do we do in the meantime when people are crying we cannot afford life, like food?
And also,
Things like that.
how much time is time?
need.
You know,
Can I
'cause-
al- can I
I've got those
I
are
need-
2 questions.
Yeah,
Yeah.
before you answer, I need to comment on something here. Some questions here, which are legit. Pablo says, I think this debate will not be that much fruitful. I have so far heard the phrase, I have not been following Kenyan news much lately. Then how would one state facts on happenings if they haven't followed news? Isn't that trying to sit on the fence? I think part of that is just kind of putting a disclaimer. I might not have had everything I need to hear for this conversation, but I'm gonna try to have it. So like, I think just this grace there that we need to have, and so I think that's what I really want to talk
Stephen
about.
JJ says, for democracy to prevail, every seat can be contested and put to book. Why can't one audit the results? We are a democracy, ama. Why is it that hiyo ya preso is always on letter shida? We have audits to make sure stuff works. Why are some people against the audits? And then he says, our systems, we all know, are wanting to say the list. And then Afro-Jamaican says, but it's not about the individual, it's about pooling the resources. It works in Jamaica and Trinidad, but there should be a sliding tax scale. And then you can read that other comment from Pablo. I think Pablo still comments from me as a supporter
Of the government,
Yeah.
I think I have seen a lot of excesses, especially from the security forces. There are some people who are protesting peaceably, as per Article 37 of the Constitution. Secondly, the threatening statements coming from some leaders within the government are totally uncalled for. Case in point, the CS for Trade Parliamentary Majority Leader, Senate Majority Leader, etc. Then he continues to say, I would want to hear from Allan what he thinks of statements or tweets coming from the likes of CS Moses Kuria, which caused him to miss out on the high-level meeting with the trade officials from the U.S.
And I want to quickly comment about, like that issue with Ty. She called Karen Ty, I can't remember her name, the U.S. trade representative. And maybe for those who don't know, Kenya is currently in the middle of negotiations for a permanent trade agreement with the U.S. And we've talked about that trade agreement here before on the show, the U.S.-Kenya trade agreement. And I've been following closely these negotiations, because the U.S. side put their priorities in a document, and the Kenyan side also put their priorities in a document. And I've read both sides. So currently they're in the middle of a negotiation. And I'll tell you one thing: the U.S. has very strong negotiators. They bring, like some of their best out to these negotiations. And what the current U.S. trade representative is doing, I mean, I can't go in her mind and tell, like why she refused to meet with the CS for trade. I mean, of course, she never verbally gave the reasons, but Grapevine has it's because of some of the threats that he's been putting out. This right here, I strongly believe, just knowing a thing or two about negotiations, this is a negotiation tactic. And you see, the problem is that for Moses Kuria to be brought back to the table, the U.S. is going to demand stuff. When you look at the U.S. side, as we speak right now, there are certain things that they've put there that don't even make sense. Like things that they've put there for their own geopolitical influence. Like, for example, they have a clause that talks about, like Kenya supporting the U.S. in every vote they make in the UN on issues regarding Israel. And you wonder, what does this have to do with trade between Kenya and the U.S.? So there's so many things that the U.S. has secretly put in there, not necessarily secretly, because these documents are open. Anyone can go online and read them. But what's happening right now is they're looking, because this is not like a Goa. This is a permanent, it's equivalent of what used to be NAFTA. like it was changed to something else. But it's a permanent trade document. So of course the US is looking at the interests of the US, and Kenya of course should be looking at the interests of Kenya. So now when you have all these weapons on your side, and you've already sidelined the trade CS, before you bring them to the table, you will say that we want this, and this before you can bring this guy back to the table. So these are some of the consequences that we get from like reckless statements. And Kenya is a model that the US is trying to use to what they're gonna like do across sub-Saharan Africa, because I think they want to go to other countries, and Kenya is being used as a model. And right now I can tell you, or for anyone who's been following this closely, in those negotiations currently we are not winning.
All right, let's give him a chance to respond to any of these things we brought up.
It's quite a number. One, to Pablo, I want to say this is a social session. This is not what primarily was here for. So, and I said my opinions are my own, right? With regard to Moses Kuria and what you've mentioned, and particularly trade, or you look at it, the global geoeconomic space. Everybody is fighting, or everybody is jostling for influence in Africa. China was way ahead of the ball game. If you look at Moses Kuria's history, he was a banker in the Middle East and has a lot of links to the Middle East. He has done a lot of trips there to get a whole bunch of funding and trade agreements with the Middle Eastern countries. And a statement like what you have just said would come in as a concern for a country like Israel, where you have Kenya is very strategically placed in terms of our agreement and location in the world, and Israel has a lot of interests in Kenya. So if you end up with negotiations that they may feel have a concern to them, it may come on the table. So that's just my view. That is something that, and if you remember, we've been targeted, right? We've been targeted. Remember, there's a hostel called in I think Malindi called what was it called? Paradise or Palisade, where there was an attempt to shoot down an aircraft.
Yes, I remember that.
Yeah, and if you look at that hotel, the primary residents are from that region of the world. So there are a lot of interests in the region, and those could play out in some of those meetings that Moses Kuria is having. But nonetheless, with regard to his comments, I'll say they are reckless. I saw him, of course, I follow him on Twitter, and I saw him post in vernacular language some comments. And I think that's uncalled for, especially if you're part of the cabinet. You don't want to be threatening.
Why does the president tolerate him? Because it's been too much. I think this is just me. This has been reckless for a while now.
That's a hard. My counter to that. I know we're in a social session, but my counter to that would be really interesting, because I'd be asking you, I don't want to go there, but I just said, we've seen the former president in the company of some people. You wonder why what they are doing together in the streets. I don't know if you remember the former president being told by an old Asian resident of Nairobi, please move this office away from here. You're disturbing our peace.
Now,
so I don't want to
going back to the president. And the tweets, because Pablo, really wanted you to address those tweets from Moses Kuria. So going to the president, on the tweets from Moses Kuria, like when you do it the first and the second time, it's Moses Kuria. When you do it a third, fourth, and a fifth time, that's the president. That's the president talking. There's no other way of looking at this. There's no other way of trying to dissect that. Oh, the president is surrounded by bad people. That's the voice of the president. First, second time, yes, you can say, yeah, he's an erratic guy. He's done it before. But when, this keeps happening to the point that now the U.S. trade representative is cleverly trying to use this as a tactic. And this is something that Americans are very, very good at. You know, Americans, of course, you know, like they've dealt with all kinds of dictators who said all kinds of crazy things. But whenever they're in the middle of negotiations, they'll use all these interesting tactics to get what they want plus more. And I think this is what maybe we are not factoring in, you know, like, or the group that's with the president is not factoring in. Gonna come to Uno real quick, but here's also my take on the president. We had it's, you know, like at the end of the day, being a president, you're a politician, and you have to manage politics. You know, like, so that's a very important variable, and that's why, you know, like I can understand why he, you know, like why, you know, like he has to sleep with some felines, but when we compare, you know, like when you go back to President President Kibaki was touted as a very good president on the economy and everything. But one thing that people don't talk about much on President Kibaki, he mismanaged politics. And that's why we had 2007. That was mismanagement of politics. And this is not just according to me, this is according to Ndi, who's currently in, you know, like an advisor in Ruto's government and was also part of Kibaki's team. There was a mismanagement of politics, and mismanagement of politics can be very dangerous. It led to the clashes that we had, the post-election violence 2007-2008. Now here we have another situation where I feel like there's an overmanagement of politics. There has to be a balance. Right now we're in a situation where politics is being overmanaged at the cost of competence and at the cost of just wanting to get the job done. So with Kibaki, he really managed nicely the part of competence and getting the job done. On this other side, you know, like you could be, you know, just you know, like someone from wherever, but from Wargadud or wherever, but you just showed your loyalty to the president, and that clearly is what was giving people positions in the cabinet and all these other positions we've seen. There's an overmanagement of politics. So when there's an overmanagement of politics, there's also a danger of another 2007 happening. There has to be a right balance, you know, and here it's not about you're supporting him or her or you're supporting this or that. When there's an overmanagement of politics, that's when we get to the level where we are in. Because as a leader, you have to be stable, you have to be you know, you have to be very sober-minded, and you cannot, you know, like come out in public, you know, and show certain kinds, and a lot of people here are leaders wherever you work, you know, like or with whomever you lead. You know, there's sometimes when you're very angry, you want to, you know, like you even feel like you know, like crushing someone, but you know you have to come to that meeting and just show a very calm face, which is currently what we are not, you know, like what we don't have as Kenyans.
Right.
When we
Can
go
you
back to
respond to
President
that?
Moi, in as much as he was, you know, like there was a lot of issues with his administration, but he had that ability to come and speak, and even those who are against him not agree with him, but they listen to him. So right now we have a country where 150% is not listening
Right.
to what the president is saying, and
I
that's
want
very
him to
dangerous.
respond to what you just said.
Okay, so
The
I
one-
said a
the
lot
one-
of things.
the
I don't know what
150
part.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, respond to the overmanagement of politics, the having people who are not competent, or like, I mean, whatever Kure is
the-
doing.
He actually, Ali put it very well, because a day stated very clearly what Kibaki's flaws were, and they have no intentions of making the same mistakes in terms of the politics. And that's why you see that sometimes you see the president get out there and talk to people and let them know his view. But there's also something else you have said, and I think that's misunderstood, that because Moses Kuria says something, that by extension that is the president. I don't think that's true. You have
And
to
the
hold
and
the
the deputy
president by his
president
word.
as well, because I think the deputy and Korea are same WhatsApp group at this point.
If they say it once or twice, it's not the president. If they keep doing it, that is the president.
The deputy president says he's a truthful man. So sometimes I think he speaks too much truth, and it gets disturbing.
Like when he
Truth
says,
to who?
Like Kenya has shareholders.
like Kenya has
You know,
shareholders,
the-
Amai says
the
that.
idea of shareholders, I don't think he said Kenya has shareholders.
Okay, I can quote
And
what
he-
he said. One
yes.
thing he said, not quote, paraphrase what he said. He said, if you voted for us, excuse me,
Bless you.
we can move you to the front of the line for services.
I think he had to explain. He explained it multiple times. This is what he said. He said no responsible administration would seek assistance from people who don't see their vision. So he said they will seek assistance in terms of governance from those who see their vision. You cannot pick somebody who doesn't see your vision, right, to help you run the country, because then you not be heading in the same direction. That's what he said.
That agreed. But again, I'm gonna put Moses Kuria and the deputy, because I honestly think Ruto speaks a ton of sense for the most part. That is just my take on him as a president, as a person.
There we
But
agree.
he surrounded himself
we
with
agree.
some weird people, and as Ali is saying, the first or two times people say
Yes.
things, it will be like, okay, that is on you. But if he's tolerating them around,
That's him.
and the talk they keep making, then I have a right as a Kenyan citizen to be concerned.
You know, they
there's
say
there's also something that I think has been missed, and it was in one of the comments. I think Moses Kuria said either regarding the media or something, and he said, "You don't expect to have freedoms of expression and deny others freedoms of expression." So Moses Kuria, in some cases, will give utterances in his person. He's expressing his individual
He doesn't have that privilege,
frustration.
though.
Who denies him the privilege
Of
to
ex-
speak freely?
You know America's freedom of speech, but if you yell fire in a movie theater, you'll get arrested. You'll get arrested.
It
There's a
doesn't mean
freedom
you
of
say
speech.
anything.
Yeah.
Didn't say
There's
you
a limit to
incite
freedom of
people.
speech.
There's
Yeah.
a limit to
The-
freedom of
the-
speech.
Ali,
Yeah,
Ali
yeah,
has just,
that
Ali has just
freedom-
mentioned
that
a
freedom-
phrase I've heard so many times.
Yeah,
Fire,
that freedom.
fire.
No, but that freedom.
And it's not from the Kenya Kwanza side.
No, but that freedom you're talking about, even within that same constitution you're talking about, it has limits. It's not an absolute right. It's not a-
I thank you for saying that, because it is within that context that the government is trying to also manage the demonstrations, because in everything you just said there's limits.
No, but
Right?
but demonstrations. I
So-
think we're talking
Then,
about
by the
different
way,
things.
demonstration candle right now. We're talking about the government and how they're governing, and how like some of the people in government were supposed to, basically preach peace, preach, more togetherness, unity. They're not.
you know, I was going. Let me, like,
Okay,
I was
go
going to
ahead,
say
go ahead,
this.
go ahead, Roman.
I was going to say this, and you put a disclaimer that right now you're giving your views as Allan, not as Allan Kiguru, Kenyan, but
Yes.
not as chairman of MDKO.
Yes.
Okay, which means that there are certain things that you cannot utter as the chairman of MDKO, right? The buck stops usually with the chairman. So if, let's say, for example, the representatives of MDKO
Yes.
go out there and say certain things, and the members, their interest gets picked up. Initially, people will look at one of the members and say, "What are you saying? What are you saying?" Eventually, if somebody else says that, or the same person says something, everyone now will look at the chairman and say, "Boss, are you going to allow this to continue happening?" So at some point, the buck stops with the president, or the buck will stop with the chairman. Now, by the chairman or the president letting this utterance and say, it's a representation of who you are. I'll give another example. At one point in time, Trump used to say that he chose the best people to run the country, to be his cabinet or whatever. But when you find out, and he continued saying, I always pick the best. But what ended up happening? Most of the guys who ended up being picked either got indicted, got fired, some are serving time. And he's being asked, if you say that you've hired the best, let's question your ability to choose people who are smart, Let's question your ability to choose people. Because if you say you hire the best people, why are your people getting arrested? Why are they being indicted? Why are they going through this? So ultimately, no matter what, Moses Kuria can say what he wants. Yes, he has the freedom of speech and whatever. But ultimately, the buck stops with the president. So everyone will look at Ruto and say, boss. So you have your CS saying all this, and you don't even say anything. The Republican caucus here, the Republicans over here, Marjorie Taylor Greene says whatever she says, right? Everyone looks at the speaker, McCarthy, to say something or come down hard on her. What does he do? He ignores. What is that interpreted? That is interpreted. The interpretation is that it is the consensus of the Republican Party. So whatever she says, people know that that's what the Republican Party represents. So no matter how you dissect it, like you said, there has to be a balance. And I think also what's happening is this conversation has sort of led away from what I believe. I think what we wanted to understand is what the Kenya Kwanza government, especially and specifically, is trying to do to, let's say, lower the cost of living, to lower the price of unga, to lower the fuel, because they are double taxing. You know, like when it comes to VAT, it has been doubled. Those are the things that, you know, like you said, if a guy is, I'm not concerned about furniture when I've not eaten. I need to eat first. So the small things, what are being done to raise. There's a lot of money that gets raised through taxation. However you want to look at it, a lot of money. But of course, we know that money, most of that money gets stolen. Now, why not, in one sense, try to curtail that, to be able to either provide services or provide unga or lower the cost or whatever, rather than raise taxes? Because the only place that money is going to come from is going to come from the whatever the percentage of the people who earn a salary. Those are the guys who are getting fingered.
I mean, I think in defense of President Ruto, I think in his defense, you know, like the issue of bloat, you know, like is something that was really notoriously overused by the previous government. You know, like they overspent, and then there was the issue of a lot of debt when they came into power. To me, the biggest mistake that they made, you know, like from the beginning, you know, because they had, you know, like so much support from the hustlers. The biggest mistake they made from the beginning was they did not show the way. And of course, you know, like these kinds of big debts, you're not you're not eliminating them, you know, like overnight. But the biggest mistake they made when they came in, they showed and proved again that they were not in any austerity mood in terms of how they were spending, you know, like the packs they were giving to their people, the offices they were creating. They created 50, you know, like positions, 50 positions for the CAS, which was later quashed by the Supreme Court. They did not show any intent to cool down on the spending. And I think that's where, like, even their own supporters were looking and they're like, okay, these are the guys who are saying, you know, like that they're gonna do this and that. They did not show any of that. There's the issue of course, some of the taxes go towards paying debt, but our issue has been the spending that we have. And then we also they've talked about, you know, like there's people out there, experts, who've talked about what's called odious debt, whereby, you know, like you have a credit card, your balance is you spent $3,000, so you're expecting a $3,000 at the end of the month, but the statement comes, it's saying $5,000, and you did not spend $5,000. You spent $3,000. So where is this $2,000 coming from? There's that issue. So to me, I think that was an original sin that they committed, and that's the reason why, you know, like you're seeing even some people who were in full support of them coming out, because they're realizing it's another situation of it's our turn to eat. And then there's a advice that has come from all kinds of different economists, and that's something that those of us who studied economics in college is one of those things you learn in your first or your second year. It's called the Laffer curve. There's only so much in taxes you can collect before it starts diminishing. You are talking about the 3% housing levy. When most of you own businesses, when you own a business, and then expenses start, like going up, one of the things that you start looking at in terms of reduction of expenses is personnel.
Yeah.
So if you have, like let's say 100 million shillings worth of salaries, and now 3 million of this, has to go to some fund. Those are people who are getting paid. So if you had a contingent of, let's say, 1,000 or 10,000 workers, you're like, let me get rid of these 200 workers so that I can meet this government obligation. And that's where, President Ruto and his team, because I know there's some people who understand economics in the team, I don't know where they imagined that these higher taxes are actually going to result in them collecting more money, when the Laffer curve says the actual opposite. It's also very simple. This Mzungu economist who came on Spice the other day was saying there was kuna hii pombe flani ilikuwa inaitwa senator that was 20 bob, and then the government decided it's gonna tax it, and then it became 40 bob, and then people just shifted to changa. So whatever they were expecting to collect taxes on this 40 bob they were charging this, they did not get it, because people shifted from that 20 bob beer. They went back to changa, which has no tax, which has other dire consequences. So these are some of the things that I think now people are seeing and they're understanding, and they don't want to, and now they're realizing that things are actually thick. And then there's the people on the ground who know that pesa hakuna.
And I want to agree to what you've said with regard to that levy, and I think that's what informed them to roll it back and probably make it a tax, because the employers, particularly KEPSA, I think that was something they were not going to have. So I think that's why that was rolled back. But also, just to respond, when Mikey touched on something that I want to touch on, he said, as the chairman of MDKO, if something happens, you'd roll this back. One is there's a distinct difference, because the officials get elected by the members. So that's not something, even the president himself cannot roll back an MP, right? Because an MP is an elected individual. But with regard to Moses Kuria, he's a member of his cabinet, he's the appointing authority. So there he has some leverage, and he has to look into, what that is costing him politically. And if there's an advantage, I think he'll retain him. If he feels that it's a political cost to him, then he'll do the necessary, because he's the appointing authority.
Or maybe he's just telling him to go say those things.
That's why I said he's the appointing authority.
Yeah, it's easier for people to conclude. We need to. My phone is not working. Okay. I think it's easier for people like Ali to conclude.
Yeah.
You're speaking on behalf of the powers that be, because how are you getting away with this?
That's true.
Yeah, so I think
that's one way of looking at it.
Yeah.
So that's why ultimately,
what would be the other way of looking at it?
Is that it is personal. He's just exercising his freedom of expression or speech.
Then he should,
and he's entitled to that.
Then he should retire.
And we also have to look at it this way.
Then speak.
Does that impact his performance?
Yes, it does.
Does it impact his
yes,
performance?
yes, and I'll tell you how.
If it's determined,
yes,
negotiations.
That's what I'm saying.
Yes,
if it's determined, it impacts his performance.
It is.
His appointing authority is the one who has to do the review and do the necessary.
And that's why I think it comes to question, who is he surrounding himself with? The president, that is. Let me read some of the comments people have here. At this point, we can't differentiate his capacity as a private citizen and a public servant. He should know that by now. That is Moses Kuria. Slay says what Uno said. I don't know what Uno said. Okay. Aslan Nisisima youth manze. Problems that na hii mambo ya voting people were summoned by the ICC. Interesting. Root cause analysis. I think that's when Ali was speaking. And then Slay response to Stephen JJ says, I remember when this was being considered, and I remember telling a friend, this will come back to bite us in the behind. That's about voting for people who are summoned by the ICC. The IMF just approved $1 billion USD loan to Kenya. I think it's more than that. Let's see how it's going to be utilized. Our country is mortgaged to the eyeballs. The finance bill, literally, this money is dependent on the on passing of that finance bill as it passed. Otherwise, we wouldn't have, because they did demand that we increase our tax base. So that is just one thing to put out there.
Now, unfortunately, the World Bank is saying, or the IMF, they're saying quite the opposite. They're saying they are not, they're not involved with the making of the.
Of course, they will say that, but they did say they want to see more tax collection in Kenya. I actually read this on Reuters.
Yeah.
They wanted to see more tax collection to meet our, as I said, to our debt obligation. So that was the release of this money was dependent on seeing Kenya trying to do something to that effect.
And I think that's the reason why I think this debt situation of Kenya will not be arrested by trying to overtax people. The Laffer curve is like gravity. Remember gravity? What was that guy who invented gravity called? Were you guys paying attention in high school? Isaac Newton.
He was a cool kid.
He was sitting. Well, what did he do? Some of these stories, by the way, he was sitting under a tree.
An apple fell on him.
And then an apple fell on him.
Yes.
Some of these stories, by the way, I don't even know that they were true. An apple fell and then he wondered.
Take it.
Yeah.
You know what?
See, just like the Bible and the apple.
Yeah.
Science, you just are curious about what just happened.
So you're just sitting under a tree and then an apple falls and then you wonder,
Gravity.
why did this apple fall?
Alisoma Abbott.
Yeah.
Alisoma Abbott.
Yeah. But what I was saying is that the Laffer curve, is kind of like gravity. Think about those guys who are buying that drink for 20 bob, and now it's 40 bob, and now they have to move to Changa. Or think about yourself.
That's the economy at work, right?
Yeah.
That's the end of the invisible hand in the economy at work.
Yeah.
Right?
So that's what I'm saying. Unless it's attacked, on the spending side.
Yeah.
Will not be able to resolve.
Let me ask you guys this, if you don't mind me.
Yeah, sure.
Because you're talking about resolve. What solutions would we provide for Kenya ourselves? Like
So-
we are mortgaged so much right now. Our funders are saying we need to see more revenue generation. So Kenya goes and increases tax bases. So what would you suggest to the government?
Can we start with Allan
I think
probably to provide?
it's produce more, which is one of the things they're going for. You produce more, and I keep saying with the agricultural sector, the injection into the agricultural sector is going to create more production for the country, which is good.
Okay.
And also some emphasis on manufacturing, because that's going to put us in a better place. And one of the things they're looking towards doing, if again going back to the affordable housing, they were trying to standardize some of the materials that get used for building. If we're going to a production where we're putting out standardized materials, then that's something else we can do within the region. We don't have to think about going outside the continent, but within the continent of Africa, if we can be able to produce and be suppliers of our neighbors, I think that will put us in a better place.
Building materials.
Yeah.
No, the most immediate thing, the most immediate thing is spending. Because remember, a country, think about your household as a country. Like when you have issues, like your cash flow, you're not meeting your cash flow. You can sit and think, like currently I'm working at Walmart, I am earning $45,000 a year. But you know what? I can get that job at AstraZeneca and earn $150,000. It's very nice to think like that, but it's not easy to go get that job. What you can start doing immediately is cut cable. There's certain things, like maybe you used to go shopping Whole Foods. You're like, Apana, let me stop going to Whole Foods. Let me go to a more affordable grocery store.
But it's not all foods.
So those are certain immediate things. There's certain immediate measures that you can take that will reduce your spending as you try to contemplate, like all those other great things that you can do later. Because right now you're in an emergency, your landlord is waiting for rent, your wife is waiting for allowance. Maybe you have a slave maybe you have a slave queen on the side. She's also waiting for an allowance.
Your Tempur-Pedic has broken down. Temperature control haifanye kazi.
No, by the way, like when you're in that situation, you should not be sleeping on a Tempur-Pedic. You should probably be sleeping on a Slumberland with a blanket ya Raymond. Like when you're in that situation, and that's where we need to think. That's why you need to think in Kenya. In Kenya, they will show you that car VW they bring out during the budget. But those are not the cars that members of parliament are driving. Those are not the cars that the cabinet secretaries are driving. These are third world countries. You have very rich countries where you have ministers who go to the office using bicycles. So we're not saying that Kenyan ministers should start using bicycles, but that's
nice.
But that's where at that top level, and when you start at the top level, that's when everybody else will follow. Like when you show, like at the top level, we are doing this, we are cutting this, we are cutting that, and even when it comes to the making of the budget, that's what we can do with immediacy. While we sit and think, how can I move up from Walmart to be a CEO at AstraZeneca? So those are the things that we can do immediately. It's nice to have these lofty and ambitious goals, but right now our house is burning, and we need, to fight the fire. Before we start thinking of building pools and building, I don't know, a deck, or building, like a penthouse and all that. So that's good, but immediately we need to tamp down on the spending.
Okay, let me read the comments from listeners. Moses Kuria Akosawa being Ruto's right-hand man. Okay. Washeke, reduce wage bill. I almost read as you wrote it, Washeke. Loopholes. Stephen JJ says close the loopholes. Grizzly Proxy says subsidizing manufacturers, farmers, business subsidizing, and taxing imports higher. I think they're
doing that.
They're doing that. It's Kenyan imports, which is like we import everything almost. Very, very high taxes. Informal sector hawalipi taxes, which most people who wanasema ni wa biashara wako hapo. The problem is we are missing out on manufacturing investment to Rwanda and Uganda due to high costs and corruption. Slay says, I'm changing my name every time I hear Slay Queen. That's a good one. That's a good one. Grizzly says, cut costs for government officials, stock spending, which has to be vetoed by Prezo into law. Cut the fat from government by getting rid of all those CAS, bloated benefits for politicians. And then Pablo says, Omukia Omutata, Allan Namu and Maina Wajigi have made serious allegations
Supposed
about
to be Jimmy
the loans.
Wanjigi, but
Okay.
Yeah, I know. Maina is a dad.
Jimmy.
Maina is a dad
About
who was
the
a cabinet
loans,
minister.
about the loans and how the money borrowed is being spent. Those issues are not being highlighted by the media.
and that would be definitely
Yeah,
a very
and-
good topic for another day.
Yeah, and I think, like Spice FM picked up, like some of those allegations about odious debt. And it's not allegations, like there's proof that's
It's
being
proof.
shown.
It's there.
And Omkia Omtata now has that in court. And the mainstream media, Pablo is right, the mainstream media is not highlighting it.
It's not.
But if you go to spaces like Spice FM, they've given it quite some coverage on their platform.
And I think that in itself becomes an issue, I think, for me, where I think there you kuna maandamano, kuna everything, but there are certain things that if there was a focus on, and I think Ali, you said it, Grizzly has said it, and very many people, cutting costs is one way that can ease the burden. That now the money is, because once you cut, you have money. Now without money, you can do things with it instead of having to borrow.
Yeah.
Because all the time we're borrowing. Now, listening to Jimmy, who has yet to be refuted from his presentation in terms of like the odious debt or whatever. Domestic debt is what is killing us. Because apparently we are able to meet our obligations from the loans that we have. But what is killing us is domestic debt. Allan Namu has a series that's out. He's talking about, like now in the Eurobond, there are certain monies that they come in, they're supposed to go to a particular place.
Yeah.
But the members of parliament, the persons who manage the laws and whatever, crafted something that said that money, even before it comes into the exchequer's
Tuichukulie
account,
huko.
tuichukulie huko,
Yeah.
right? But there's no brouhaha. People are not commenting on that, and that is what, either media has failed to pick up on that, or they choose not to. And right now I'm just going to pick on Omosh to say something because he's just been quiet. He hasn't said anything. And this is a guy who was being pelekwa dunda by Allan, but now ataki kubebwa tena. I mean, what's up?
Now he's not helping his friend.
He's not helping his friend. Like, what's up?
Yeah.
Nikki man.
Okay, wait. So I was supposed to be helping him, or he was over here kuongea stance yake ya Kenya Kwanza as Allan
let me
the
say.
person.
Yeah, as Allan. And let me say that the president has a great opportunity to roll back on the wage bill with the CS's decision by the judiciary. So that's something he can take advantage of. But I'll leave it to Omosh.
Some of us have been around since the first president of the country.
We know that.
And
Sir Philip Mitchell?
yes, that guy. So when you look back at our country and what we've gone through, there was a time when we used to use something called subscriber trunk dialing. Yani, it meant that you could actually make a call direct without using a switchboard. Kenya was one of the first places that had that, by the way, in case you guys didn't know. So we have things that can work. We have policies that can work. We have, and a lot of countries admire us. In
Yeah.
fact, a lot of people
100%.
come from Nigeria into
Benchmarking.
Kenya, and they're like, wait, you mean you guys even have Wi-Fi and it's free?
I know.
Imagine, So there's a lot of things that
That are working.
that can work and will continue to work. But if we continue going down the line that we are going now, where Wanjiko, as they call the person who doesn't have anything, or the common mwananchi, where Wanjiko is basically saying, I can't. That 50 bob that I used to use a day to feed me, or so moja that I used to use a day to feed me, because maybe naenda kazi ya mjengo, or my husband yuko kazi ya mjengo na anapata sotano. This sotano, we are dividing it between rent, school fees, uniforms, or whatever other things that they have. Plus, and then they also want to save, right? It's not possible to do it anymore. So you have to cut, like Ali is saying. And where is it that you're supposed to cut? Do you cut the food? Do you cut steamer? Do you cut mafuta taa? Where are you supposed to do all of this cutting? And once you do this cutting and what you have is just basics, then what are you gonna be on? Because you're already on skuma and ugali. Ugali yenyewe now you can't even afford. It's like you have to send for somebody to come from Shags with that unga, and then you just grind it at the local. And in fact, there's a lot of places now in the city where people can grind. You just come with mahindi, it's put for you on a coach, easy coach, in a cam, unafanya vile unafanya, and you need to move on. So with all of these things that I've said, people have had to cut, but they've cut till they can't cut anymore.
Yeah.
And things are not going down.
The government
School
is
fees is still going up. This new system that they have, every step of the way, there's a new fee that you're paying. These days there's graduations from CG, I don't know, pre-1, CG pre-2, CG, I don't know. And I'm like, hi, okay.
Pre-unit.
I'm like, what are all these graduations? And then now we have this new system. And along this system, you have also benchmarks. So you have places where markers, where you have to come with CG, get new uniforms. CG, you have to pay this, need it. So everything there's a way somehow that money is being pulled out of the common. How is a parent supposed to afford all of these things and still be able to say, okay, I want to have a family of 3 or 4? You can't even have a family of 3 or 4. One toy is more than enough. And then even those ones who sire the toys are like, okay, watch a mother kind of toy, and they exit. So there's a lot of things that are going wrong. And I think at this point, I would venture to say cooler heads need to prevail and look at the big picture. And it's not so much about me, the person. It's me, the office holder, who's here for the country. And I need to do everything that I can do for the country to help move the country forward. Forget politicking. That's where we need to do. Politicking needs to be thrown out, and we need to sit down and just be practical.
Yeah.
Simple. Where can we cut? Let's cut. Those people who are still in that 2B plus whatever, let's take all of them, line them up. I'll even say it, and it may sound bad. Put them up against a wall and shoot them.
China way.
That's me. I'm saying it that way, and someone may look at it and say that's drastic. But to mefika your point,
That's
they,
radical.
I mean, there was a point,
Maybe it needs radicality.
and when Allan and I were neighbors, we used to hang out same neighborhood and everything. There were no gates. There was no sijui nini at
No, nothing.
Allan, ile get tumewekwa pale Metropolitan ya kufunga watu nje ama kuwafunga ndani. It depends on how you look at it. That never.
I remember Buru with bamboo gates. Buru used to have
Boss.
those black bamboo gates you could see through every house. There were no secrets.
Correct. And
Yeah.
then each section was not sectioned off.
Yeah.
But now everything is sectioned off.
Walls.
Even every court.
Walls,
Every
Fort
court
Knox,
has
gated communities.
Yes, every court has a wachibla. But those are all trickle-down effects because of wezi. Na hiyo wezi imekujaje because hakuna
Insecurity.
pesa.
Yeah.
Then kama hakuna pesa, why? Because watu wa juu wanakula. Na kina nani tu ndio wanakula na wengine. So everybody is like, okay, when I come in, this is what I'm doing. And it's a trickle up, trickle down, whichever way you want to look at it. But at some point, there's no money that's going into people's pockets. And they don't have it to spend. The solution is we definitely need to cut back. And if people don't want to cut back, but they want to keep spending and in turn keep borrowing and then in turn passing it on to the next generation, we're never going to move forward. So looking on from the outside, as folks who are not in, I'm not in Gava in any way, form, or shape, but we are in Gava because we vote. So not voting, that thing that the young people are not doing or they don't want to do because they say that their vote is not counting. Well, guess what? It's counting when you don't put it in to count.
Yeah.
It's still counting.
Yeah, it's still counting.
It is
You may
still
not think of it
Yeah.
that way, but
Yeah.
when you don't put it into
Ta-
count, that thing is
Taking action not to do it is voting for the
That
people you
is-
don't want.
yes, the
Yeah.
inaction. And then
Yeah.
now you're gonna come back and say, oh, you know what? Unga ni hai, maze to in the streets. Well, guess what? Your ass should have voted. And
Yeah, I'm in total agreement.
so
Of course you would.
so all I'm saying at the end of the day is the people who are sitting in who have the ability, and like Allan has so eloquently put, he said, this is the guy who's appointing people to the office and blah blah blah. You have the ability to walk certain things back and to sit down and say, okay, these are the policies we need to put in place that will help, and we need to cut now fast and hard. In fact, if anything, our CS, the current even CSs, let them double up. Give them 2 ministries apiece. See, Siri, we used to have ministers that used to have like 6 portfolios. Allan, am I lying? During Kenyatta's time.
That's true. Some
Yeah.
people did multi roles.
Yeah, I
Moi
know.
did. Moi
Kumbuka-
held the country by himself
Kumbuka
for a while.
Kibaki alikuwa makamu wa rais na waziri wa fedha.
Yes, he was economics, yes.
Yeah, and he was also vice president at the same time.
Yes. So at some point, we need to be lean and mean, and we need to find a way to pull ourselves out of this thing. Or should I say you pull your socks up? Otherwise, hakuna vile unapita mtihani.
Kuna wengi hawana socks, but sawa.
Okay.
I have to say that, and I had said it earlier. I was being asked how long. I never even got to answer that question.
Okay.
I think we need to give this administration a chance. Gotta give them the opportunity to implement their manifesto. I think they're doing well, given the circumstance with all that's been going on. The unga prices have come down relative to what they found, so they need to be given an opportunity.
Are you sure about that?
A lot of
yeah,
things have
they-
gone
they-
up.
No,
since they've
are you
been
sure
in.
about that, or you want us to
Yeah.
fact check it?
Don't take a lead in
Okay.
fact checking, but I do
Okay.
think a lot of things have gone up. Cost of living has gone really, really high since they come in. And I'm saying this as somebody who's been to Kenya right after the election and just like this year. And I'm seeing, like, I don't know how people are living. Like, I'm just here visiting and my pocket is bleeding. And then even the number of people who are reaching out to me, to here, like, hey, I came, like, they work, like, I have a clinical officer. They've not been paid for 4 months. Asking, can you send me something?
But you know,
Like,
real quick, that thing of let's give them a chance, you know, it's nice. We had it, you know, like with Uhuru's regime, you know, the same people who are supporting Uhuru, we had it, you know, like in their first year.
Regime?
Yeah, that's what we're being told.
Can we call these things administrations, regimes?
Okay.
Like, it's not a good
Administration.
Okay,
connotation.
But
English.
what
Okay,
concerns me
English.
is when somebody says that, you know, the salaries are not paid. That's interesting, and we have to determine what.
NHIF is people
it-
are not getting.
Insurance hospitals are not getting
institutions-
paid.
Yeah. I need to need comments.
NHIF is not paying the hospitals when they invoice.
Yes.
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 Hospitals
Actually,
are not getting
Yeah, in
paid.
fact,
They're not
there's-
paying when they
so-
invoice.
Yeah.
Yes.
So hospitals
yes,
are
yes,
now
yes, yes.
refusing to take people
Yeah.
Under
who have
NHIF.
NHIF
Yes,
because
they
they're
haven't
not
been
getting paid.
They haven't been paid.
Do we know the circumstance under which? Because even Medicaid refuses to pay hospitals when they invoice if they're not following regulation.
No,
right?
No,
it's-
but
it's-
this
So
has
some of
nothing
these
to
things
do.
we don't look at.
No,
them in
Lakini, it's all
blanket, eh?
through. No,
It's
Alan,
all
it's
through.
all
Alan.
through. It's all through. It's not.
It's
It's
not
not so much that.
exceptions.
Yeah.
It's not exceptions. It's like
Sam, it's all through.
hospitals that don't have Nene funds. People who have NHIF have been refused to
They're
be
being
given
rejected.
services.
Yeah,
Just like
because-
straight up, we have NHIF pay out of pocket. We're not taking that, you know. And we have hospital staff who are not getting paid, going months without pay.
And that's a fact because I have a cousin. She hasn't been paid. She's been like, yo, please, we
me-
haven't been paid.
I got a friend who asked me, I've not talked to this person in 20 years, reached out and said, I need help.
Pay
I
me.
can't afford
She
food.
asked you to
That's
pay
a
her.
serious concern.
You know, so when I say things have gotten worse, that's what I mean by that. And just in the
It's
last
bad, yeah. In
Yeah.
fact, these days when you in WhatsApp, you even that blue gray ticks. I don't know which tick you need to use to hide, because
great.
there's another one over there where you know you don't even respond. Vitu zinakuja unaziona and you just keep moving.
Okay, let me read this comment and then we wrap up. I stand guided. Yes, Jimmy. Washika says Kenya is spending money like we're the U.S. Treasury that can just print notes. And then Steven responds by saying we are spending money like we are in mass. Honestly, Ruto should actually have Lumumba as his advisor. Ruto has a great vision for Kenya, but Raila's distraction for his Mkatenusu will slow his manifesto, strengthening likes of judiciary to being independent. Not sure what that meant. Very, very true. Policies in place, good constitution. If we follow it, I am optimistic. Then hakuna nusu mkate, hata wewe sahau yo maneno. Kenya ni yetu sisi wote. The constitution we have now mastermind to it was Raila. Same guy voicing BBI. Same guy maandamano, ndo zake. Same guy monopolizing gas in Kenya. Make it make sense. Interesting. Then Kaiser Soze says Kenya has so much going for it, so much potential. I pay so many school fees. I pay so many school fees in Kenya. If my wife only knew. But who can I say? But who can I say now? We need to produce more, but I think it's everyone for themselves. Let the diaspora be free to invest. It's working in Ghana. I don't believe in that. I'm not sure you're talking about, Stephen. You come in and implement your manifesto. The fund is broke, NHIF, and SSF has been plundered, and NHIF as well. How can you come into power and ask for time? That was a question. Those are facts. People are not getting their pensions. Let's not be emotionally carried away. Inflation, COVID pumped into the up globally. US has been up from $2.50 and it's not going down ever from 2019. Loans and IMF grants lazima watu walipe. So cost of living has to go up. So many factors in play.
And real quick, there's someone who mentioned Ghana there. I don't know whether it was
Kaiser.
Afro-Jamaican.
Kaiser.
Ghana is going through some very tough times.
Yes.
You know, like and I think that's why sometimes we
They
just
have- they
we just
defaulted on
need
their
to
debt.
we just need to, you know, like sometimes also, in as much as, you know, like we love our countries, we need to look realistically. What's happening in Ghana right now? If you have bonds, if you bought government bonds, the first thing that the government said is that they're not gonna pay you until until 2032. They're not paying you, and then your bonds, the interest it's I
They're
think
cutting 30%.
they're cutting. No, 30% is the principal. They're cutting. So if you bought, like $1,000 worth of bonds, unapatiwa 700. Now your 700, you can't collect it until 2032.
Yes.
And then they were also cutting, whatever
rate.
the return. So basically, you're just
Losing money.
losing big time.
Yeah.
And where we are, Kenya, right now, we are. I'm not gonna say we are right behind Ghana, but we are on our way there. We are on our way there, and that's the reason why you're seeing, like very high interest rates from the bonds. Like we might get to a point where we might not be able to pay those bonds. If you know your parent, or you know anyone in Kenya who has bonds, I'm not gonna give you advice on what to do with them, but just know right now it's a very, very risky product. Yes, the interest is high and it's looking good, but just know it's a very risky product at the moment.
Na wahenga walinena kilicho na mwanzo hakina budi kuwa na mwisho. Meli imetia nanga. Let's wrap this puppy up. Omosh!
Yes. Oh, yes. Habari yenyu. My peoples, asanteni sana. Thank you to MDQ. MDKO coming through. And then Allan himself coming through. It should be MDKO chair, Allan coming through, and then Allan himself coming through, and also to our fans, our sportscaster.
Hey.
In fact, our sportscaster should come over here and say something next. So line yourself up. And then also to our fans, thank you very much. Enjoy your summer. Like Mika always says, don't drink and drive. Call somebody. Take a Uber. If you're my friend, you can call me. I may pick you up, or I may send you money for Uber. You never know. It's easier than mchango ya matanga.
Send me money for Uber right now.
It really is easier than you have a Uber. So why are you telling me? Well, thank you all. See y'all next week. Come on up, sportscaster.
And Ruth will
Nah,
debate
man.
this again.
And please,
That's
put that deep voice. Don't be afraid.
Yeah.
All right, well, thank you guys for having me. It was a pleasure to be here and looking forward to the next show. But yeah, make sure to watch the Women's World Cup. The game's going to be good.
Okay. Who do you predict is going to win? Who's going to be I know who you're going to predict, but who's going to be in the finals with the US?
Finals, I say USA Spain or USA Brazil. Those are
USA
the
Spain or
top
USA
teams, yeah.
Brazil.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So
we'll
next
see how
week-
far your predictions will go.
Next week, we want a good report.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll see how.
All
Okay.
right. Okay, thanks.
Okay, and thank you so much. I was so happy to be in studio with you guys over here and everyone at home listening. Great conversation. I think we talked about I cannot pronounce that name right now, but the product.
Repercussions.
No, not repercussions.
Repatriation.
Repatriations. Thank you.
Repatriation.
Repatriations. And what you're doing in Maryland for that. Great product, I have to say. I applaud you for even being here to talk about it and kind of sensitizing people about it. Again, it's summer. Summer is summering. So I hope you guys are having fun. Next time I'm in studio, I would definitely.
When will that be?
I said I will be coming in and
Okay,
out.
good.
I will come before summer is over.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was for Pablo.
That's
Because I think he makes a determination of whether Tatuskiza based on whether Ruth is there. Yeah.
We shall.
Thank you, Pablo, for tuning in. Thank you for everyone else who tuned in today. I appreciate you.
Mr. Allan.
Allan.
Tafadhali.
Let me say thank you for having me.
Hey, you were sweating bullets. Just joking.
I'm going to go there. It was an honor as chair of MDKO that we were able to showcase our product, especially right now in the middle of the registration period. That was important, and that was the primary purpose of my
When does the
visit to the
registration
studio.
end?
The registration ends on July 31st.
And
So
the next
those-
registration
those-
will be?
Next year.
Okay.
So those who are interested in joining, you have about 10 more days to do that. On the political sphere, like I've told Ruth, we'll be back. And Mike, I will not share. We will come back to the studio and have a nice debate
Thank goodness.
when I have all my facts lined up. So, and to all those who are watching, Fab and the rest, keep watching this show. I think it's very informative. And have a good night.
All right, thank you so much, Allan. We appreciate, like the conversation we had with you regarding MDKO and the service they're offering to Kenyans. And I want to remind the audience, the ones in Maryland, it's mdkomaryland.org. For those who want to register, registration is going until July the 31st. I'm still going to give you that challenge, and I'm going to give a challenge to all other Kenyan organizations, not just organizations that give death benefits, all other Kenyan organizations. Kenya has between 25 to 30% Muslims, so whenever, you're tagging something with Kenyan on it, constantly remember that, whether they're in the building or not, because it has an effect on when people see it, when the average Kenyan Muslim sees it, anaangalia, no, hii si nini yangu, hii si event yangu, hapa maybe hawanitaki mimi hapo. So I think that's very important, and not just because I've been contacted in some situations to give a token representation, to give a token prayer. That's not what we're looking for. We're looking for participation, and if it's business or non-profit, for products that make sense to us and our situation. So that's a tough challenge. That's a tall challenge, but it's one thing that I want people to keep in mind, even when you're organizing events, and it's a Kenyan event, and you want to pray in the name of Jesus. You have to always, just pay attention to that. Have that in mind. I want to thank the audience for their contribution, and I also want to thank, our young sports anchor for the contribution he made today. We hope that we're going to see him again, as the World Cup progresses. And then we still have, a good lineup of guests in store. We're going to let you know who's going to be coming next week and the week after. Na kwa wale wote ambao wanataka kunipigia simu, nambari yangu bado haijabadilika, ni ile 1-800 mteule. Na operator akishika simu, mwambie unataka kusema na mjukuu, na akikuuliza ni mjukuu yupi, mkumbushe ni mjukuu yule wa Masai, because I'm Kenyan by blood, American by design, Masai by choice. Sichagui, sikagui na sibagui. Kwaherini.
Aiden, Daddy loves you. Jerry, Daddy loves you. Nimo, Daddy loves you. Until next week, be blessed.
Ali's number doesn't work.
Simu yako ndo iwaka.
Where hiyo niyo nyuma ya tent.
Simu yako ndo. I get calls.
By who?
I
Take
get
us out.
calls.
Watu wa domestics watapeleka.
I can't reveal it. You have to discuss jumbani.
Sasa.
Which never mind. No.
Umekata
kwangu.
Mini big baba, sidai nonsense. Nishai target, tuni full package. Na when you find mama, una kompe. Ka unaipenda, sema usiogope. Ati naipenda, tuli, relax, tuli, nakupati naipenda, tuli, relax, yo, misha kudigika binoculars, I like what I see. Inakawe ruka ukitrai kuvaa jeans. Wasoro na nendama mifichanga lasi. Na gal totos yuko juu, hele mkeka Aladdin. Komo tutapel, tuneza blend kama Yves na Lapel. Umedunga Chanel, if you know me well, I can be your clientele. Ka unakinda na nunua, tuma invoice kwa mail. Na kausha vuta signal, siko busy if you wanna see me later. Misi no nini, but si leo niko kwa keja. Ulishasikia vile nyuki fuata sali, come through niko na mali.
Naipenda walai naitaka, weni big baba basi mini Martha. Itufisa lazima utoe pesa, bembeleza sijui kuteseka. kasi ganji baba, see you later. Unarukia kati ni chess tunacheza, cruising nicely na siko kwenye Tesla kwa lap ya tajiri, kazi tuku cheka cheka. What you know about living this life, baby girl? And a rhyme, tell your favor, I said hi. This man and a deni kuwe wife, na watoi cup 5 and a jokes are why.
Mini big baba, sijai nonsense. Ishai target, mini full package. Now when you find mama, una kompe. Ka unaipenda, sema usiogope. Ati naipenda, tulia, relax, tulia.
Mechi na kinaruni, hali ni duni, kuna mbinu na buni, mona moshu umezidi ukadhani nachoma kuni, oya ole mapafu